I never thought I would be the villain in my own story. If you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have told you that loyalty was my defining trait. I was the one who judged others for their indiscretions. I was the one who said that if you are unhappy, you leave. You do not betray. You do not lie. I had a black and white view of the world, and I lived comfortably within those rigid lines. But life has a way of blurring the edges until you cannot distinguish between what is right and what is simply necessary for survival. This is the story of how I cheated on my partner, and more importantly, why. It did not happen overnight. I think that is the biggest misconception about cheating. We tend to think of it as a singular, explosive event, a moment of weakness in a dark bar, too many drinks, a lingering look. But for me, the betrayal started long before I ever touched another man. It started in the silence. I have been with Mark for 7 years. 7 years of building a life that looked perfect on paper. We had the house with the double driveway. We had the Sunday routine of coffee and bagels. We had the shared bank accounts and the plans for a summer vacation in Italy. Mark is a good man. That is the hardest part of this confession. He is kind, stable, and reliable. He remembers to take the trash out. He asks me how my day was. He loves me in a quiet, steady way that feels like a warm blanket. But somewhere along the line, the warmth turned into suffocation. The loneliness crept in slowly. It was not that we stopped talking, but we stopped saying anything real. Our conversations became logistical. We talked about bills, about the leaking faucet, about what to make for dinner. We stopped asking about each other's dreams. We stopped looking at each other with that spark of curiosity. I became a fixture in his life, like a favorite lamp that you stop noticing because it has always been there. I felt invisible. I would lay next to him in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling the distance between us stretching out like a canyon, even though our shoulders were touching. Then came Julian. It is a cliché, I know, meeting someone at work. But clichés exist for a reason. Julian was everything my life currently was not. He was chaotic, intense, and incredibly attentive. He was a consultant brought in for a 6-month project at my firm. The first time we met, he did not just shake my hand. He looked me in the eye and held my gaze for a second too long. It sent a jolt of electricity through me that I had not felt in years. It was terrifying. It was addictive. At first, it was innocent. We grabbed lunch with the team. We exchanged emails about project timelines. But the emails started to change. They became less formal. He would add a joke about the boring meeting we just sat through. I would reply with a witty comment. Then we started texting. Just about work, I told myself. Just venting about the boss. But soon, the texts were about music, about books, about our fears. I remember the moment the line was crossed emotionally. It was a Tuesday night. Mark was watching sports in the living room, completely absorbed. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, feeling that familiar wave of emptiness. My phone buzzed. It was Julian. He had sent me a picture of the moon from his apartment balcony with the caption, "I saw this and thought of you. You seem like someone who appreciates the quiet beauty of things." My heart hammered against my ribs. It was such a simple sentence, but it made me feel seen. Mark had not looked at the moon with me in years. I replied, and we texted until 2 in the morning. I lay in bed next to my sleeping husband, typing secrets to another man, and I felt more alive than I had in a decade. That emotional affair went on for 3 months. I was living a double life. In the daylight, I was the dutiful wife. I cooked dinner, I smiled, I played my part. But in the digital world, I was someone else. I was as desirable. I was funny. I was interesting. I became addicted to the dopamine hit of his name popping up on my screen. I started dressing better for work. I started wearing perfume again. Mark didn't notice, but Julian did. The physical betrayal happened on a rainy Thursday in November. The project was ending and the team went out for celebratory drinks. I knew I shouldn't go. I knew exactly what would happen. But I went anyway. I told Mark I would be late. I told myself I would have 1 drink and leave. The bar was dimly lit and crowded. I sat next to Julian. Our knees brushed under the table, and neither of us moved away. The air between us was thick with unspoken tension. As the night went on, colleagues started to filter out, heading home to their families. Eventually, it was just the 2 of us left in the booth. He turned to me, his voice low. He asked me if I was happy. It was a dangerous question. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes. But the alcohol and the months of pent-up longing broke down my defenses. I told him the truth. I told him I felt lonely. I told him I felt like I was disappearing. He reached out and took my hand. His skin was hot against mine. He told me that he saw me. He told me that I was the most captivating woman he had ever met. And then, he leaned in. The kiss wasn't like in the movies. It wasn't soft or romantic. It was desperate. It was hungry. It was filled with months of suppressed energy. In that moment, the guilt didn't exist. Mark didn't exist. There was only the sensation of being wanted, truly and fiercely wanted. We left the bar and went to his hotel. The walk there is a blur in my memory. I remember the rain on my face, the sound of the city traffic, and the grip of his hand on my waist. My mind was screaming at me to stop, to turn around, to go home to the safety of my marriage, but my body moved forward on its own accord. The hotel room was generic and cold, but we didn't care. What happened next was a release of everything I had been holding back. It wasn't just about sex. It was about reclaiming a part of myself that I thought was dead. It was about feeling powerful, beautiful, and chaotic. For 2 hours, I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a responsible adult. I was just a woman lost in passion. But the reality of what I had done crashed down on me the moment it was over. I stood in the hotel bathroom, staring at myself in the mirror. My hair was messy, my lipstick was smeared, and my eyes looked wild. I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. The shame hit me like a physical blow. I felt nauseous. I quickly showered, scrubbing my skin as if I could wash away the fingerprints of betrayal. I dressed in silence. Julian tried to talk to me, tried to be tender, but I couldn't look at him. The magic was gone, replaced by a cold, hard dread. The cab ride home was the longest of my life. I rehearsed lies in my head. I checked my phone to see if Mark had called. Nothing. He trusted me completely. That trust felt like a knife twisting in my gut. When I walked through the front door, the house was quiet. The TV was off. Mark was asleep in our bed, the gentle rise and fall of his chest marking the rhythm of the life I had just set on fire. I crept into the room and changed into my pajamas in the dark. I slipped into bed beside him, careful not to touch him. I lay there, eyes wide open, listening to his breathing, paralyzed by the enormity of my secret. The days that followed were a nightmare of paranoia. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every time Mark looked at me, I thought he knew. I overcompensated. I cooked his favorite meals. I was extra affectionate. I bought him a new watch for no reason. I was trying to buy my own forgiveness, but it wasn't working. I broke things off with Julian immediately. I sent him a short, cold text saying it was a mistake and that we could never speak again. He was hurt, I could tell, but he respected it. He left the city a week later when his contract ended. I thought that him leaving would make it easier, that the distance would help me forget. But you can't run away from what is in your own head. The guilt is a heavy thing to carry. It changes you. I look at Mark now and I see him differently. I see his innocence and it breaks my heart. He doesn't know that the woman he loves is a liar. He doesn't know that I let another man touch me. He doesn't know that our entire reality is now built on a foundation of deceit. Some people say that you should confess, that the truth will set you free. But I disagree. Telling him would only be to relieve my own guilt. It would destroy him. It would shatter his confidence, his trust, and his heart. So I carry the burden alone. That is my punishment. I have to live every day with the knowledge of what I did. I have to look him in the eye and smile, while inside I am screaming. Crying, I cheated because I was selfish. I cheated because I was weak. I cheated because I wanted to feel something other than the numbness of a routine life. And I did feel something. I felt high, and then I felt the lowest I have ever been. This isn't a story with a happy ending. I didn't leave my husband. I didn't run off into the sunset with my lover. I stayed. I am still here, in the house with the double driveway. But the dynamic has changed. I am more present now, strangely enough. The fear of losing what I have made me appreciate it in a twisted way. I listen when Mark speaks now. I hold his hand. I try to be the wife he thinks I am. But there is a shadow in the room now, a ghost that stands in the corner of our bedroom. It is the secret I keep. It is the memory of rain and a hotel room and a man who made me feel alive for a fleeting moment. I know I can never go back to being the person I was before. That woman was innocent. This woman is scarred. If you are listening to this and you are standing on that ledge, thinking about jumping, thinking that an affair will fix the hole inside of you, let me tell you this. The high is not worth the hangover. The thrill of the new touch fades, but the stain on your soul does not. You think you are looking for another person, but you are really just looking for a lost version of yourself. And you won't find her in a hotel room. You have to find her in the mirror, in the mess you have made, in the silence of your own home. I love my husband. I really do. But I don't know if I can ever forgive myself for what I did to us. And maybe I don't deserve to. Maybe this guilt is the price of admission for the life I chose to keep.